Okay, fantastic.
1, 2, 3.
Fantastic. Well, we'd like to welcome everybody to the Windermere Ward virtual fireside. The bishop has asked me to kick this off. He will be joining us shortly, and we're just thrilled to see faces and to see people out and about, to know that you're alive and well, and thank you so much for joining us. We would like to ask Sister Wynn in just a minute here if she'll give us an opening prayer. And as she prepares for that, we just want to let everybody know that we'd ask you, except for Sister Wynn right now, to put your computers on mute. That'll make sure there's not any reverb. And we've also asked Brother Pulver to go ahead and be kind of a moderator so that everybody gets put on mute. And we would ask you to take a look at the bottom of your screen. You'll notice there's a chat feature. And if you have a question, please go ahead and write your question in. And that way we will be able to know what you'd like to hear from the Ritchies about. And at the end, the Ritchies will take the questions and go through and answer and have a question and answer time. But we'd welcome to get your questions as they come to mind to you. So if you also are having technical difficulties, you can click on chat, and then you can click to, I believe you just click on Stephen Pulver. That's Dave Pulver's alias. And you click on that and type in your message and say, hey, I need to help Brother Pulver, and he'll be able to help you out as necessary. So with that, Sister Wynn, if you would like to go ahead and kick us off with a prayer, and then I'll give a brief introduction to the Ritchies and we'll get started.
Okay.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Well, I know that you've all received the little blurb about the Ritchies, and seen, I'm sure, some of Brother Ritchie's videos that are all over the internet. I just have to say that, you know, over the last 40 years, the Ritchies have been involved in many activities. They've all had some common threads. They've all had a spiritual foundation, and there have been a lot of philanthropic things that have punctuated their activities, and they've been involved in raising their 8 children, and they involved in many different business opportunities. And one of the things that I have often wondered if Brother and Sister Ritchie ever sleep, because they are very busy people, and we appreciate their example. Some of the things that they're probably most well known for is Brother Ritchie was the Senior Vice President for what is now Franklin Covey, and he, together with Stephen Covey and Hiram Smith, kind of met with some of the world's best minds and helped guide them and counsel them. And then they were led really into getting involved with BYU Provo, BYU Hawaii, and on the National Advisory Council for the Marriott School of Business. And they have been involved in many leadership activities professionally. And then they got involved in giving back. And that's where I think they have found their deepest satisfaction as they've been involved in bishoprics and stake presidencies and mission presidencies, and in presidencies of the MTC in Ghana, and institute director in New Zealand and in Africa, and regional representative in the Provo region. Once again, I wonder if the Ritchies ever sleep. So I could go on and on about them. I think the most important thing for you to know is they are some of the most extraordinary people that I've met, and we're very blessed to have them this evening. So Brother and Sister Ritchie, thank you for joining us, And we look forward to being spiritually nourished and guided from you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. We came just for the introduction. That's quite an introduction. We feel honored to be here. We wish we could be in Florida where you were. That would be even as nice a climate as we have here. But we're glad to be with you and pray that this virus might get out of here so we get life back to normal. It's been quite a deal. Let me not waste time with more of this small talk. Let me share a couple of things, and I'll let my wife share a few things we've been doing. But a little foundation start. Can you hear me okay, everybody? We okay? Are we hearing okay?
Yes, we can hear you great. Thank you.
Okay. One of the things that we learned at Franklin Covey today, Franklin Quest in those days, is a couple of things I want to share because I think it really pertains to what we're going to talk about for the next 4 hours that we're together. That's a joke, by the way. We created in that company a phrase called the triquation. And the triquation was identified as the fact that our self-esteem, our self-confidence is equal to our productivity. Now, the triquation means there's three things, but our self-esteem is equal to our productivity, is equal to our event control. If we can learn how to control the events of our day, our life, we will be productive. And if we're productive, we'll have high self-esteem. If our productivity goes down, which it has been tempted to do during this virus days, if our productivity goes down, so does our self-esteem, so does our self-worth. And so it's really important that we discover ways to keep our productivity up, because that's the key to our self-confidence and our self-esteem. And so just with that in mind, then you go to the Covey world, and he, of course, gave us the 7 habits, and we all know what the 7 habits were, but only to mention 2 of them, which are really pertinent to this meeting today, and that is that the number 1 habit of all highly effective people, and I've emphasized the word all, and he got several $1,000s for people coming to have he'd train them how to put these habits into their life, but he said to us all, that the number 1 habit that all highly effective people possess is the number 1 granddaddy habit is to be proactive. Now, if we assign that word proactive, we know we got to be a self-starter. And then we go back to the triquation. That means we got to take control of the events of our life, which means if we do, then we'll have productivity and our self-esteem goes up to match that. So being proactive is a very key part of this downtime we're all having right now. If we can realize it's up to us to reorganize ourselves and find ways to be productive, then we will find ways that where our self-esteem and our self-confidence for us and our families won't be destroyed. But Covey also had number 7 habit, which is what we're talking about today. He just said, after all the good habits we must develop, we must stop and sharpen the saw. And to sharpen the saw, of course, meaning that we must do the things that will help us get prepared for. And in our downtime, we get ourselves using up time to get prepared for the up when we can be out doing more things, traveling and doing the things we want to do. So today, we just want to focus on things that we've found and ways that we might sharpen the saw and be proactive and become more productive and use this downtime we have to learn how to do that. And so we like to kind of share a few ideas. One more thing that changed our life, and you, in the introduction, you spend a lot of time sharing how we've found great joy in giving back, and we haven't, and we really have found great joy in that. And it came from David B. Haight, who was my mission president back in Scotland 1,000 years ago, when on the way home from my mission, before I came home a week before, he stood on the edge of a boat on the River Clyde in Glasgow, Scotland, and said to me, if you want to go home and be successful, I'm going to tell you how to do it. But more important than how to be successful, I'm going to tell you how to be happy. And by that time, I'd taken a lot of faith in him. And so I listened very carefully and internalized what he said. And it really came down, we kind of combined this as we taught it around the world with what David Haight taught and a few other things. But the bottom line is basically 5 steps to being successful in the world, which is to get up early and work hard and get our education, get all the training we can get so we can find our oil find out what we're good at, unleash our talents, we can find what we're good at, then we can make our mark in life, which is step number 5, to be really good at something. And if we do those 5 things, David Haight promised me several times that if we do those 5 things, that we would unconditionally, in any culture, in any world, in any land, Africa, Asia, Europe, America, wherever, that we would be successful. But if we did those 5 steps only and did them for ourselves, we would also become selfish and prideful and think we're better than other people because we have more stuff, more money, more whatever. So he said, if you do those 5 things with the intent for yourself, it'll destroy you. If you do it for step number 6, which was give back, serve others, build the kingdom. Give back, serve others, build the kingdom. If all these things over here are done to be successful in the world with either our talents or our time or our money, if we do those with the intent we're going to use it to build the kingdom and give back to other people, then we'll be happy. Now, if we can take that formula and put it into the point to say, how do we then become proactive in sharpening the saw, getting ourselves, taking control of the events of our life so that our productivity stays high, so we feel good about life and love what we're doing. Then we put together what we're gonna kind of talk about today is our how we can sharpen the saw in downtime and how we might use that time. I'll let Sister Ritchie kind of introduce herself now. She's got a few thoughts to introduce, and then we'll move forward.
Well, I've been pondering what I should even say to you today, and I knew there was going to be an introduction, but I didn't know what it was going to be. So I thought I'd add just a couple more things. That I met my husband at BYU long time ago now. And we dated. Well, I was dating one of his roommates, one of his friends from Scotland, where he had been on his mission. And my roommate was a girl from Heber City that he had dated. And then to top it off, I was dating his roommate, who had been another Scottish missionary, and we used to double date. So, so my date didn't have a car, and Jim had a car, so we double dated. And anyway, as it turned out, tell him what you used to say. He'd say, so I was watching him in the rearview mirror holding the hand of my wife.
Always made me very nervous when I'd have to adjust that rearview mirror and say, that's not right, him holding my wife's hand back there. So anyway, we finally had to change that and take charge of that relationship 54 years ago. So
yeah. So we married in the St. George Temple in July 8th, 1966. Very hot day, 110 degrees outside. And, you know, our heat is different from Florida heat. It's very dry and hot here. But 54 years ago, we married, and then today we have 8 children. We have 41 grandchildren, almost. Got one coming. And we have 10 great-grandchildren by the end of the summer. So life's been really good to us. As you know, too, we've served a lot of missions. And I was just going to, we were going to be back in New Zealand serving a mission just now. And then all of this happened. So I bring us up to the COVID-19 time that we're living in right now. And as I look at what we're doing as we're staying home and in place, visiting, you know, people like you on a Zoom, we, I call it a gift of time, because I have discovered that there are so many things that I've been wanting to get to and wanting to get done. And then all of a sudden, there's no place to go. And here we are at home. And so, in fact, I got a phone call the other day from a friend, and she said, She said, you know, I have been saying that I'm going to get to that just as soon as I've got time. And she said, now I have no excuses. And so that's what we're discovering too. We have, one of the things we've learned from this COVID-19 experience is that our food storage, our being self-reliant wasn't complete enough. And so we had a couple of projects just a few days ago, it's probably been a week, just a few days ago, we had, our home is up on a little hill, and the back side of the house is a hill. It's terraced, and we decided we'd take out pine trees and quaking asps and put in fruit trees. So we did that the other day. We put in 6 fruit trees, and we even have a lemon tree growing in a pot. We have to bring it in every night. So we're trying to cover all of our bases. So that made us feel really good. And then, you know, living in Heber Valley, we only have a 72-day growing period in the year. And so you have to be kind of creative to pay attention to the weather, put your plants in. So yesterday we had some grandchildren come over and they built for us grow boxes. And so we're getting that done. Then another thing that I've always wanted to be able to really dig into was my genealogy. And I have done it at other periods of time, but I was lagging a little. Jim and I are ordinance workers at the Provo Temple, but as you know, the temples are closed. One day when we were at the temple, a new girl came on our session to work, and I just went up to her and said, well, I need to meet you. Found out she said she was from Southern Utah, and I said, I'm from Southern Utah too. And I'm from St. George, and she said she was from Parowan. It turned out that we are related because her great-grandmother and my great-grandmother are sisters. And we just discovered that by visiting in the temple. So she invited all of her sisters, and I invited my brother and my 3 sisters, and we got together and had a little lunch and swapped information we had about a great-great-grandfather. So that's what I've been working on right now, is pulling it all together. So I have other goals. I want to write my own history. I want to take piano lessons again. And so how do you think I feel just to be able to accomplish some of those things right now? I feel great, don't I?
And see, that's exactly where we've been talking about, what we introduced us with. What we need to find ways to sharpen the saw. We need to keep ourselves being productive, because that's when we feel good about ourselves and our life, and that we don't just sit in the house and look out the window and feel sorry for ourselves. And so it's been really fun watching my wife especially get organized on some of the things that she's really wanted to do, and has been able to find a way to do it. So she has really become even more productive in her time, being more proactive, even more proactive. And as a consequence, her productivity, her taking control of the events of her life, and her self-esteem and self-confidence has remained high during what would have been and could have been a downtime. Now let me add some couple of things that we might do in addition to, because one of the steps in the formula was to keep getting our education, keep getting training, keep getting learning. And of course, you know, that's the come follow me obvious answer to that one to start with, is come follow me, reading the scriptures, studying those scriptures, studying the conference talks, listening to the conference, and so forth. Let me give you another one that I found with the missionaries in the mission field and in the MTC, and at BYU. I teach this Launching Leaders course at BYU in Hawaii for 3 years, and now BYU Provo. And one of the things that we've given to them as something to do to keep themselves educating themselves and staying motivated and staying being proactive is to read good books, read good stuff. And a book I'd like to recommend to you very strongly for this, especially for this kind of a downtime period, is you can read all of Og Mandino's books, but the one that I really use the most in all those areas I've just spoken about, the MTC and Institute and everywhere, is The Greatest Salesman in the World. Og Mandino is the greatest salesman in the world. You can get it on the internet. It's 100 years old. It's probably in every language on the planet. But in the back of that little short story you'd read to get the storybook read, and most of you probably read it. If I had you in the class, I'd ask you for this show of hands, and probably 2/3 of you have read this book. But I don't know how many of you really put it to the test of what he asked us to do with it. And that was to read the 10 scrolls that are in the back of that book. They're all 2 or 3 pages long. And they're all, today I begin a new life would be the way that the first one. And then he asked you to do something that I know no one in the history of the world has ever done. Somebody wrote me back and said they did do it. But he said to read it 3 times a day for 30 days. In other words, read scroll number 1 90 times before you go to scroll number 2. I don't think anybody can stand that till they get to number 2 and 3 and 4. So I suggest they read it twice a day, once out loud at least, looking in the mirror, and do it for 1 week. So they read it 14 times before they go to scroll number 2, and then go from 2 through 10, which would take you 10 weeks under my plan to read those 10 scrolls. But I promise you, during this downtime, those would be some of the greatest readings. The compliment should come follow me that you'll ever read in your life. And I just really recommend that you do that. And then I've always asked them if they would send me a note at the end of 10 weeks and tell me what it did to their life and how they feel about it. And I'd kind of like to ask you to do the same thing. I'll give you an email address at the end here, and I'd love to hear from you, from some of you who might go put that to a test and read what Og Mandino said. When you read things like, I will laugh at the world, and I'm nature's greatest miracle, and I'll multiply my value 100 times, and I'll persist until I succeed, and I will pray for guidance. I mean, each of those are introductions to some great scrolls that really will make a difference in your life to help your self-esteem, which would make you feel productive, and using that valuable time to increase your feelings of worth inside. So I'll just ask you right now, we know in the mission field that there's 2 words are the greatest, most important words in the missionary's vocabulary. And it's in Preach My Gospel, and that word is, will you? And so we just right now ask you, will you get that book off the internet or wherever you can get it and read it, and then follow the 10 scrolls for the next 10 weeks, and then send us a little email telling us what you've done with your life as a result of that scroll experience. So would you all at this point just internally raise your hand and say, yes.
We can
yes.
see them.
Would you raise your hand and just say, yes, yes, yes. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. That's an assignment. Okay. All right. Sister Ritchie, you got anything else you want to share with these good folks?
Nope.
Let me just see if there's something else I wanted to share. I know what another thing is. Another area that really is great for all time, not just downtime, but all time, is learning, identifying mentors. Now, this can be done by reading good books, reading the scriptures, but identifying people who you can go visit with and talk to either online or on phone or in person, that you can ask questions to and can pick their brain and ride in the pickup truck with them for somewhere and find out what they're doing, how they're getting better. I use the example, I'll do 2 things. I'll tell you about Moses and President Uchtdorf. But, just using President Uchtdorf as an example, we often joke about the fact that we've been in the church for 50 years, which means we've been to 2,500 sacrament meetings. And in the 2,500 sacrament meetings, we've heard 3 talks. So that means we've heard 7,500 sacrament meeting talks. And then I'll ask the kids in the class, I'll say, how many of those do you remember? How many of those changed your life? And hardly anybody raised their hand. And I'll ask why. And then we end up kind of saying, well, because sometimes they're not very motivating and not very inspiring. And so we then, we don't want to say that out loud in front of the bishop. But the fact is that sometimes we still go to church. We love going to church. We love going with people, meeting with people, fellowshipping. but we sometimes don't know how learn how to give great talks. And yet at the same time, I ask them, have you ever heard a man named Dieter Uchtdorf give a talk? And they all say yes. And I say, have you ever heard Dieter Uchtdorf give a boring talk? And they all say no, they've never heard Dieter Uchtdorf give a boring talk. And then we ask why, and they turn around and say they end up agreeing the fact that every time he gives a talk, he ends up being inside of an airplane and selling some kind of a story. Well, that's the key. We got a grandson who just joined us here. If you want,
He's cute
join us,
too.
come sit. You just got to be real quiet, okay? Okay.
It wouldn't be a Zoom meeting without a grandson or a child joining the call with us. So
That's right. That's right. We got a good one. He's our youngest of those so far of the 40, but he's a good kid. Anyway, the bottom line is, if we want to learn how to be a great communicator, then watch people, get mentors, watch people who are great communicators. And you'll always find they always tell stories. They always tell a story tied to a principle, and then they teach a principle with it. And so I say to myself, it doesn't take a rocket science to say, let's become a communicator by watching people who are, Dieter Uchtdorf being an example of that, and then to copy what they do. Well, we can do that with anything. We want to be popular. We want to learn how to smile and be along with people, and look for people around you who are really popular, good leaders, happy-go-lucky people who know how to make friends easy, and say, watch them long enough to copy what they do, smile like they smile, and do what they do, and then you'll also become that kind of a person. So mentoring is really key. And the bottom line of that story goes to a lesson that takes an hour to share, and I'll do it in 1 minute. That when Moses was the sheep herder, had been herding sheep for his father-in-law for 35 years. Now he goes to the top of the mountain. He makes the trek as an 80-year-old man, goes to the top of that mountain. And of course, when he makes the effort to come to God, God comes to him. And when he's sitting down in front of a video screen and they turn on a video movie, and God shows Moses a video of the creation of the world and all the things he did to make this world. And Moses watched that video, and then it says he greatly marveled and wondered. And I asked the question, what did he really greatly marvel and wonder about? And he marveled about the fact that he looked over every few seconds, not just at the video, but at God, and realized that why was God showing him a home video of what he's done with his life, how he's created worlds of his own. And then it finally dawned on him, he's saying, Moses, my son, I've made you in my image. You are my son. I'm tired of you just your life herding a few sheep, when the fact is you have the potential to make worlds of your own. And you come to this world to gain confidence in yourself, and to read the right books, and to find the right mentors, and get the right education, and to find your oil, and to make your mark, and learn how to give back and help other people and build the kingdom, and do all those things you've been able to do. I've realized that you have unlimited potential. If only you'd spend it preparing to be the right thing. And when Moses came off that mountain, it hit a home run. He came off the mountain determined to make a difference in the world. Satan comes to him, and Satan said, hey, you're nobody, you're a sheep herder. And Moses said, no, I'm not. I used to be yesterday, but today I'm not. Now I know who I am, and I have unlimited potential. And then the Lord comes to him when he gets rid of Satan and says, now I can use you. And he says, would you go to Egypt? And the rest, we all know the rest of the story. But that's a great story. It's a great story of what we could be doing in our downtime to get ourselves prepared, and to read the right books, and meet with the right people, and find the right mentors, and discover our weaknesses, and then work on those weaknesses, and sharpen the saw, find the Dieter Uchtdorfs of our life that we need to take all the different areas where we're weak and where we're not strong, and find a way to sharpen our saw better, and build our productivity, build our confidence by taking control of the events of our life. So, will you read the book, the Ogmandino book? Will you find some mentors? Will you, in this is the really part 2. This is the book part 2, but yeah, I couldn't find my part 1. I just loaned it out to somebody. But
so I put a link to the Amazon webpage for the book in the chat for everybody.
Very, very good. Very good. It's just a great way to spend some downtime in addition to the scriptures. Let me give you one more, and then I'm through. We'll ask questions. well, one more. This little book also has affected my life. This man we met in the temple in Washington, D.C., just a little paperback book, a pamphlet almost. It's The Kindness Giver's Formula, The Kindness Giver's Formula, written by Randall McNeely, who became a good friend. Like I say, we ran into him in the Washington, D.C. temple. And from that time, 25 years ago, we became good friends. And he's the kindness giver. He's out on making movies and writing books about how to spend our life giving back and giving and being a kindness giver. And he talks about the formula in here. And now, once again, I'm not selling books to you, but I just throw it out as the fact that he wakes up every morning and teaches us how to identify, what am I going to do today to make a difference in somebody's life? What can I, and of course, in our church now with the ministering program we have, we've had downtime as a good time for us to spend a lot more time ministering. But he says, consciously wake up in the morning, think about who you can do something with and for that would make a difference, make a list, and then go on your daily work of routine of life and find ways to just do that, to look for ways that you can smile more than you did before and be kind, to do something nice to people and just make it a focus. So it's not just something you do when you think about it. It's your plan. It's your plan of life. And when you do that for other people, they like you more, you like them more, you're happier, they're happier, your confidence goes up, their confidence goes up. Everybody loves each other because we just consciously tried to find a way to become a kindness giver. And I'd sure recommend that you kind of look up Randall's book, and at least it's only, like I say, a little short paperback book, but it's sure full of great wisdom. Now, so we talked about the formula, we talked about the triquation, we've talked about the Covey's habits of highly effective people. We've talked about the Og Mandino's book, the greatest salesman in the world, the kindness giver's formula. Everything about it are just ways to become proactive, doing good things in downtime or even in good times, uptime, and just make our life so we can raise our productivity and our self-esteem. Questions? Anybody got any questions? We promise. The other 4 words in a missionary's vocabulary was, will you, I promise, I know. And so we just say, will you do it, as you said you would. We promise that they will make you happy and productive. And because we know because we have practiced this our life. Our children are all actively promoting good things and doing good things and all active in the church. And we give the success of that not only to the great mother they had, but to the fact that the formula really works. If we can keep them actively living on the formula, trying to be successful with the intent to give back. If that's why they do this, if they do that to give back and build the kingdom, they will stay active, they'll stay happy, they'll be productive. And we're just praying that we can keep that formula going to the end of days, and that we learn from this downtime, we learn from this terrible moment, we learn from it. It's a trial wrap-up period. It's the beginning of the end. It's the story of how we're going to face. There's going to be a great and dreadful day, great for those of us that learn how to live it and be prepared for the Savior to come back, and a dreadful day for those that think it's not going to happen. And so we just want you to know that it is going to happen. He is going to return. He's going to return to his people in Orlando, Florida, and maybe even the Heber Valley, we hope. But okay, that's enough lecturing time. To ask us any questions or tell us bye-bye and whatever you need to do, okay?
So the first question comes from Brother Sivers. He said, what strategies have you found that work to motivate young people?
Wooden spoon.
The wooden spoon. My wife used a wooden spoon on the kid. They knew when she came in the bedroom with a wooden spoon that they're gonna find out what they were doing wrong. But
I tried that once and I broke the spoon. They laughed and laughed and laughed. That didn't work.
Didn't work. So it's trying to it sounds like a cliche, but it's trying to set an example. It's trying to when David Hay gave me that formula, we said we're going to go live it, and by living it, your kids watch that and they realize it works. It helped in business. It helped in church stuff. Everything we did where we were trying to live the formula with the intent to help other people, it made us successful in life. And it made us, we served eight missions, and we've been all over the world teaching the gospel and teaching the formula because it works. And so just having something, that's again why the 10 scrolls, having something you can share in a story form that motivates people. The Dieter approach to life is to teach with stories and examples and then try to live them another way that your life becomes a story that people want to follow.
Let's find out what they're doing.
Well, there's another question from Sister Coons.
Okay.
For Sister Ritchie, how did you find balance in maintaining a home, raising children, supporting husband, and fulfilling church assignments without feeling overwhelmed?
I had really good kids. That was one thing. I used to get up very early. There for a period of time, I got up at 4:30 in the morning because one of my priorities was to keep a clean house. And I would get up and make sure all those things were done, so that it was kind of ready for the family when they got ready.
And then she get her kids up to help her, and she taught them how to do it.
They were my great helpers. I have 4 daughters and 4 sons, and they've just been great kids.
She taught them how to. They had a bread route when they were 6, 7, and 8 years old. Those 3 older girls. They'd go door to door selling bread and getting orders. And they had an Amway dealership with a little red wagon, and they were young. They were just little girls, but she taught them how to make the bread and how to clean the house. And so she just really was very proactive in helping her children learn how to the domestic skills. And I wasn't much help to her. I was really pumped and motivated on the financial side of that. So I wasn't home a lot. Between that and being every church position I could find, but so we weren't home together till nights at that time. But she did such a great job of training those kids, and was so supportive and so willing to do those kind of things that I wasn't home to help her on until I finally grew up long enough to realize that I was a dad too, and I was supposed to help more than I did. And eventually, I got better at it, but I wasn't very much help those first few years.
Somebody else asked, could you review the 5 things that formula that Elder Haight told you? Could you repeat that one more time for us?
Get up early. 2, work hard. 3, I gotta turn off this phone. I turn it off and it's come on the screen here. There, just give them a message with it. So 1, get up early. 2, work hard. There's no free lunch. 3, get your education, get trained, and once again, school, books, mentors, whatever, you got all kinds of ways. Why do you do that? Because in the process of that, you'll find your oil. You'll find where your gift is. You'll find where your talent is. Everybody on the planet, I'm convinced, has at least one thing that you're probably better at than anybody else on the planet if you could identify it and if you could develop it. Heavenly Father gave us all plenty of talent. Read our patriarchal blessings. Probably everybody's patriarchal blessings identifies somewhere in there some of your oil, some of your talents. And why do you do that with your oil? So step number 5 is so you can make a mark. You gotta do something with that talent. You gotta be good at something, and spend the time to become one of the best at it in the neighborhood, the church, whatever. But make your mark in life. Now those 5 steps. Get up early, work hard, get your education, find your oil, and then make your mark. Elder Haight one day when we were now 35 years of age, and we were thinking about quitting for a year to go teach seminary for the church. We had 7 of our 8 children, and we were going to go to California to teach seminary. And I went to him. He's now an apostle, and I said, should we do this? I'm a bishop. I'm a Chamber of Commerce president. I got 26 businesses. Should we really leave the valley and go off and take time off to go teach seminary for a year? And he stood up and he came over to me and he put his hands on my shoulder and he said, Jim, do you remember the formula? And I said, yes, that's kind of why we're doing it. He said, if you really do these 5 things, I promise you'll be successful, but you won't necessarily be happy. The happiness comes from giving back. step number 6. The happiness comes from giving back. And he says, you go to California. We went to California. It was going to be a 9-month period of time. By the time we got there the second year, we're stake president and then mission president. And we stayed out 11 years. We were doing full-time church work for 11 years. And it was just the best time of our family's life because we were living the formula. We were giving back. We were helping other people. But we spent those first 11 years really working on accumulating something so we could go spend our time teaching seminary and mission president, et cetera. So the formula really helped us get there. But the giving back piece of it is the key to our happiness and our success. We're helping our children become financially independent, not for the sake of having a big home and all kinds of stuff, but so they too could earlier in life be able to devote full time to the church and then build in the kingdom some way. So we're trying to help them and our grandchildren learn the principles of self-reliance and independence so they too can have the chance to have more to give back and find their oil quicker and so on and so forth. So that was the answer. That was a long answer. Any other questions?
Yeah, so we have one person asking, Sister Morgan's asking, you keep saying find our oil. Where does that reference to oil come from?
That really is the J. Paul Getty quote. J. Paul Getty said that in his book. He was the oil tycoon out of Texas. But we just built it into the formula because it's kind of what David Haight was saying, to identify your talent, get good at something. And so, and J. Paul Getty said, if you want to get rich, get up early, work hard, and find oil. Well, that's that's a dumb answer, but it's a great answer. And I used to laugh at it till I discovered he was talking serious. He didn't mean oil. He meant your gift, your talent. Find it, help develop it, get good at something.
Excellent. Thank you. So our Bishop Wolfgren is asking, what have you done to motivate yourself when you're feeling depressed?
Get
out of the house, get going.
It is so when you're really working on a task list and you've got an agenda, you've got goals and you're setting goals. This is Franklin Quest all over the place. We train 6 million people, 6 million corporate executives on how to take control of their lives. I mean, when you do, you don't have to find ways to be motivated. You're always motivated. I never went to work a day in my life. I was always couldn't wait to get out there in the morning because I knew I was going to go find a new little oil well somewhere, a new little apartment I could build. I was never a mega rich guy, but we just kept looking for opportunities and found them, and then just kept finding good partners to work with to help us build them. And it was just never was a down, boring time. We were broke most of the time because we're always buying something new with it. But we eventually got it all on top of it, and it all worked out. We lost a lot of money, and we made more than we lost, and we learned from our mistakes, and we started over several times. But you know what? That was the fun part of it, was just trying to improve and keep building your little world and helping other people and serving in the church and building a family and having them help you. I mean, it's just all tied together in the formula, really.
Sounds like, part of the key to that is just stay busy. It's best
right.
you can, stay busy.
Right. That's right. There's plenty if you can find something you're good at and then keep doing it, and take some risks. You'll make some mistakes, but you know what? You learn from those mistakes, and you don't make the same mistakes again. And you get better at it, and eventually you find yourself in a position where you can really help other people.
Thank you for that. We have, I don't have any more questions in the chat. So if anybody else has any questions, feel free to ask. You can ask them in the chat or send a chat message. I gotta say for myself, I went ahead and downloaded both those books that you recommended while we were talking here.
Did you find this one too?
I did find that one. That one actually was available for free on my Kindle. So it was
super. Great book.
Looking forward to reading those myself.
Yep. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Well, I'd be interested in knowing what some of you are doing during this downtime.
Sure, we can open that up. Let's see. Oh, here's one more question from Brother Judd Merrill. How did you have the courage to leave your business and go serve? How did you pick those to lead behind you?
You know, that was a tough and yet an easy decision. We had worked really, really hard to get ourselves financially able. We weren't rich, but we had, I coined a phrase that I've loaned to the church, that we had sufficient for our needs. That's a joke, by the way. And when we did, then once again, having David Haight as our mentor, tell us that we ought to go do something with that. We ought to learn how to give it away and give back and help other people. And when we did it, when we took the jump, the leap of faith and went to California for what was going to be 9 months of our life, and we discovered how fun that was and what a great deal that did to our family. Our family thrived in California and Virginia. They thrived because they were seeing all of us working full-time trying to build the kingdom. And so it was just natural. And then it became easy. Then we got to go to New Zealand for 2 years, and then to Africa for 2, and then to Africa for 2 more, and then to Hawaii, BYU for 3, and then back to DC for a year. I mean, it was just easy to do that once we discovered how fun it is to be given back at the same time as you're trying to still, and then your family's old enough that they take over and they got their MBAs and now they're running the business and they're doing bigger things than we ever dreamed of doing. But it was just that they saw how to do it and copied it, went to school and got their education, got their MBAs, and now they're out there, you know, trying to duplicate but multiply what they're doing with the same intent, so they can serve and give back and help other people. So it's fun.
When we went to California, we said to our children, and the oldest one was 11 maybe, and we had 7 of them. And we told them that we were going on a mission. That's for the reason why we were going. We were going to be surrounded with non-member neighbors, and so we always needed to be doing our very best and be an example to people. And the kids stepped up to it. It was really wonderful. It was the best decision we ever made that it affected our family.
One of their best school teachers in grade school joined the church because of them. And she's still a very active, great friend today. It just, so they really tried hard to be an example to their peers. So that was fun.
Let's see. Sister Clancy asked, Spanish lessons online for me and teaching online for others is kind of what she's filling her time with.
Really?
Brother Sivers asked, what has worked for you to find and maintain the physical energy required to do what you have done?
Well, we're losing it fast, but we're still hanging in there. But we never went to work a day in our life. We went to play or to do church stuff. It
was all fun.
It was all fun stuff to do. Everything raising the kids, working in the church, going on these mini missions, doing all this stuff. It's not hard to be physically active and strong. And then of course you try hard to eat right and exercise and do the things you're doing so that I was a polio victim as a boy, so I got a bad leg, but I found out that basically having that bad leg was an asset to me, because it made me try hard to find some other way to compensate for the fact that I could have been moved around and I was raised on a chicken farm where my mom and dad didn't let me feel sorry for myself, and I stuttered when I was a kid, so I limped when I walked and I stuttered when I talked, and I thought I'd be a failure in life. And yet, by having parents and others that didn't let you mope feel sorry for yourself, and then having David Haight teach us the formula, I mean, it just kind of one at a time, we finally gained the courage and the strength to say, we all have problems. We all have adversity. We all, polio, now we got a virus, and some of us have cancer and other things that happen to us, but they happen anyway. They're part of life. And so we can laugh it off and get on with it, or we can let it destroy us and feel sorry for ourselves. But thank goodness we had parents and others that didn't let us mope in there at that point. And we found out later on that, boy, you can overcome a lot of adversity if you just start having something to search for and work for and goals to set. and then be helping other people with it. So I keep getting long answers.
Well, we really appreciate it. Another question is, were your children still in school when you left for your first mission?
Yes, they were all in
Yes.
school.
We took all 8 with us.
Wow.
We took 8 to Virginia. The oldest was going to just graduate from high school, and she went immediately to BYU after she spent the summer doing missionary work with us. And then she came back to our mission. She got to come back early because she was a mission president's daughter. And then the second one got to go early, but we were about ready to come home. So she went to Brazil. And then the third one had to keep up with that. So she went to Spain. And then the boys all went, and they went all over the world. And we only had one young lady that got married a little too young, and she didn't want a mission. But the other 7 all served missions first. And then they all went with us to Virginia.
Wow. That must have been exciting.
Yeah, it was.
It was great.
We
It
had
was wonderful.
we had one left when he went to New Zealand. We had one left, and he had 2 years left in high school, but they let him come with us, and we are the Hillcrest Institute directors there, and then he went to the Church College of New Zealand school for his last 2 years, junior senior year of high school, and he graduated valedictorian. He really had a great time. He really turned out to be a great. And then he went back to Scotland on his mission. He was the only one who went back to Scotland on his mission. But he served in Virginia with us, and then he went to New Zealand with us, and then he, of course, went to Scotland on his own. So
that's quite a legacy of missionary work your family has.
we've had, and all of our kids are marrying return missionaries, and so we've really got a lot of plaques on the wall.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Another question came in. We have a lot of Polynesians in our ward. What special skills and dances did you learn while you were in New Zealand?
Oh man.
We don't move that way.
in
We're
Hawaii,
handicapped.
both in Hawaii and New Zealand, and then of course we've been to Fiji and other places, the Cook Islands, and we love the Polynesian people. I mean, to spend 5 years, 3 years in Hawaii and 2 years in New Zealand among the Polynesian people was a blessing we never thought we'd ever grow up get big enough to live up to. So it was a grand experience. Those are great people. They're the salt of the earth.
Yeah, we love our Polynesian family.
Yep.
Let's see. Well, I think, that's, I haven't seen any new questions come in. If anybody from the audience wants to share what they've been doing with their time, we can do that. Another question came in. Do you have a kilt from your trip to from your missions in Scotland?
All my buddies that came home with me all had kilts. I got this bum leg, so I got a leg that looks like it's a stick, and kilt just wasn't my attire that would make me look. So I kind of avoided anything that would show off my physique. That was not my element. So no.
Well, between a kilt and a lava, you have a couple different opportunities there.
Either one, yeah, either one. I was not made for those two.
What about, did you learn the bagpipes by chance while you were in Scotland?
One of my buddies did, but I did not. I should have, but I didn't. I love bagpipe music, but if you
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're getting to the top of the hour here. Do you have any, or the bottom of the hour, I guess. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share or with us, or?
No, just live the gospel, man. Live the formula. Just identify with being understanding productivity is where you find happiness. If you can find a way to be productive, it doesn't matter what it is. Find a way to give back and help other people. That's when you're productive and happy, and your self-esteem stays up. So and as Covey said, be proactive. And spend your time sharpening your saw. Find good mentors. Go to the mountain with Moses. All of those things. They just really are the ways to keep you young and excited, and excited about life and about the church and the gospel and the restoration. He will come back. He's going to come back to our time. And this is the restoration, is that President Nelson said, was the beginning of the end. It was the beginning of the day when the Savior would return. And our job is to get prepared for it. For those of us that do, it will be a great day. For those that knew about it but didn't prepare, it will be a dreadful day. So make it a great day. know you're loved. We love dealing with the members of the church. They're just a grand opportunity. Thanks for letting us visit with you.
Yes.
Oh, thank you very, very much for the time. Thank you for the wisdom, the advice. Somebody's asking, could you share your email address so we can report back to you?
Oh yes, do that for sure. I gotta get an email. I live on email. So it's James, you can all spell James, at, and then 3 words, the, Ritchie, Ritchie, group, group.com, theritchiegroup.com.
I've put it in the chat so people can copy and paste it from there or see it spelled out.
I'd love to get an email. I'd love to get a report, especially when you finish the 10-week deal. Tell us how you feel about what you've learned and what you've done about it. We'd love to read those stories. Thanks for letting us in your home.
Will do. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Brother Sivers, do you have anything you want to close with?
Continue, Brother Paul. You're doing an outstanding job as always.
Well, Ward family, I want to thank you for your attendance. We've had a pretty good turnout tonight. We've had 30 plus of us attend, and I'm assuming much more than that as families watch from a single screen. So hopefully we can look for more opportunities to share times while we can't be together physically. Hopefully we can find ways to spend more time together virtually as well.